One Day in September is the story of the 1972 Munich Olympics, where 11 Israeli athletes were taken hostage and eventually lost their lives in a shootout at an airport in Munich, whilst they were meant to be being rescued by German special forces. And it's a film that it was the first documentary I made, and it was born out of the first movie I made, that film, The Serpent's Kiss, which, as I said, was like the most miserable experience of my life.
Yes, we've all taken it off our Netflix queue, officially.
I came home to London, and I was really in a funk, really depressed. I was like, what am I going to do now? I sort of stepped out of line and decided I was going to be a movie producer. I'm no good at it, so I'm definitely not going to do that again. So what am I going to do? And my mum was like trying to persuade me to do some management course for a supermarket or something, which I really knew I was definitely
not too late for that.
And I stumbled into a cinema on Fulham Road, right by Stamford Bridge, where my football team plays football, and in to see a film called When We Were Kings, which was about Muhammad Ali as I understood it, but I didn't really know much about it. And so I went in on my own, miserable, and sat down in the cinema. And I always think of that moment in the Blues Brothers when they're in the church and the gospel choir is singing and the light shines on Jake and he says, I'm going to put the band back together. He gets that inspiration to put the band back together. In the middle of this film, literally in the middle of When We Were Kings, I just was overwhelmed with this sense of, this is what I want to do. I want to make films like this, like sport as a backdrop and politics and archive and music and this incredible character in the middle of it. And I was just completely inspired by this film and literally came out of the cinema, got in my car, drove around, and in the next hour I was like, well, I wonder if I can think of a story that could maybe be told like that story. Driving around, boom, Munich. Just came into my mind. Can't even really explain it. It's not like, I mean, we grew up in a Jewish area of London, but we're like the most lapsed Jews on the planet, so it's not like it was in my memory because for any reason particularly, but it came out of nowhere, and I remember thinking pretty rapidly, you know, I'm a complete sports obsessive, and yet I'm now thinking about those Olympics. I know that some athletes died, but I don't know how many athletes died, and I don't know why they died, and if I don't know why they died, then no one else knows why they died, and if they died tomorrow in the Olympics, it would be the biggest story on the planet, so maybe there's a story to tell there. And we embarked on looking into whether there was a story to tell there, and as it turned out, there was. 2.5 years later, the film was done, and I mean, it's sort of kind of corny, but the truth is that When We Were Kings was nominated for an Academy Award, and I think won the Academy Award for Best Feature Documentary, and 2.5 years later, the film that was our film that was inspired by that did exactly the same thing.
It's amazing.
Completely crazy.